There's no intro for this. I made a 3.5 hour video last year about this franchise. That's my intro. Digimon GG follows Hiro, your average kid who no one understands. One day, when him and his friend are investigating a weird rumor about a ghost at their school, he comes across Digimon, digital monsters. Creatures that exist in a cyberspace known as the digital world, but when crossing over into the real world, they take this holographic form that makes people mistake them for ghosts. Hiro decides to investigate the Digimon with his new partner Digimon Gamamon, as they may hold the truth about what happened to his father when he suddenly vanished years ago, and his father seems to have some connection to the digital world. While investigating, Hiro gets the help of other kids who gain partner Digimon, Ruli, a piano prodigy and D-grade social media influencer, with her partner Angoramon, and Kyoshiro, Hiro's senpai and resident scaredy cat, with his partner Jellymon. Don't look them up without safe search on. And then from there, the show, similar to Digimon's last couple seasons, follows a more episodic format than the serialized one we're used to. You know, your typical Monster of the Week kind of stuff, something weird happens in the kids' lives, it's usually a Digimon fight resolution. Standard for Digimon at this point. I am conflicted. Some days when watching the show, I think it's the greatest thing the franchise has ever done. Other days I turn it off halfway through an episode because I'm so fucking bored. I think one of the reasons is the show doesn't know if it wants to be episodic or serialized. Like, an entire episode will take place with a new Digimon going through some new problem, and then at the end it will show something about Hiro's dad or Gamamon's dark Digivolution, Gallus Gamamon. Gamamon. You go, oh shit, I can't wait to see what they're building up to. And then you're watching the credits of the last episode and you go, that was it? Now, regardless of how I feel about other Digimon series, I have to admit, it felt like all of them at least had an end goal in mind, at least for whatever arc they were on. Like, you could tell they were all building up to something to look forward to. Like, there was an end goal in mind. Every time Digimon Ghost Game revealed some new plot thread or had some big reveal at the end of an episode, I was like, okay, why does this matter? Who cares? And I think it's because it never really established any real stakes or what those things mean in the context of this world. Yeah, Hiro's dad is missing and is stuck in the digital world, but besides maybe 5 episodes acknowledging it, Hiro never makes any effort into finding him. And you think that'd be the main focus of the story, considering it's how the anime starts and his main partner Digimon knows the dad. It's one of like the first things that takes Hiro's like attention, but it's forgotten all the time. You're only reminded of it when Hiro's dad sends him some bullshit like an upgrade to the Digivice or a message, which he can freely do, I guess. You know, it never felt like there was any tension or need to search for his dad, which was weird considering, again, they start the anime like this. You figured we'd be following up on it, but no, it's just like, oh, his dad happens to be trapped in the digital world, oh man. And he invented Digivices too, or for something, like, oh, that's not a quirky thing my dad does. What? And Hiro's reaction to anything about his dad is less a child worrying about his missing parent, and it's more dull surprise.
First photo, Mike portrays Kathy in a life-transforming crisis. Mike! She's just been informed by Native Runner that her beloved long-lost explorer / father
is dead. Dead! She is alone, abandoned, bereft, be-orphan, Beelzebub, be-Arthur, whatever.
All right, I'll say soul-wrenching sadness mixed with horror in the face of the void.
And the answer is...
dull surprise!
So you're wrong, Mr. Nelson!
Like, I shit you not, the resolution to the dad story that has been happening all throughout the anime happens in the last 4 episodes of the show. After a regular-ass Monster of the Week episode, the dad just shows up. Yes, with no effort of the main characters, he just shows up, because the finale is about to happen. It's like, what the fuck? You know, where was the build-up, the mystery, the intrigue, you know? It just felt like things were happening so the Digimon lore keepers can keep updating the wiki. Speaking of that, the evil form of Gamamon matters more because he is actually the main antagonist, sort of, kinda. Which is cool, the main bad dude inside the main character's Digimon, sorta, kinda, is cool and different. But again, they just bring him up like every 10 episodes or something, and he goes, yo, I'm so evil, and then he fucks off. And whenever there was some story progression, it was like a few lines of dialogue at the end of an episode, and that was about it. Like, it really does feel like they were setting up some stories and arcs, but forgot about them halfway through writing this stuff, and then when they were done writing the show, they were like, oh shit, we should bring that stuff up again before they start yelling at us on Twitter. And look, sorry you Digimon lore heads, if you haven't seen my bigger video on this series, I don't really care about Digimon lore or the world anyway, so I don't really care about the stuff that wasn't explored in this show. I am bringing it up though because it was pretty hard not to miss it, and it was frustrating seeing all this setup not have any satisfying payoff. But fortunately, where I think the show shines is when it's not trying to have this overarching story or narrative, it's just when it's telling a fun ghost story. This show takes a more horror approach to the Digimon concept, considering they are mistaken for ghosts here. Each episode revolves around some kind of rumor or legend that's been going around, and the culprit, of course, is some kind of Digimon causing trouble. And the show actually uses horror tropes and camera angles, atmosphere to create some moments that admittedly are pretty fucked up and creepy, especially considering ultimately this is a show made for kids. But you know, some of the stuff I was glad it was in a kid's show, and not a more realistic horror series, because I didn't want to see all the gruesome details. Now, there are a lot of episodes, and I didn't want to spend all day here recapping every single one of them, especially since there isn't really a compelling, overarching story involved. So instead, in no particular order, here are 10 episodes that I really liked. They're not the best ones, they're just ones that I personally liked when watching the show. Episode 24, Twisted Love. When a classmate of Hiro's notices people who interact with him are turning very wooden, they find out it's because of a Tarjamon? Who's in love with classmate guy and wants to turn him into a Digimon so they can smash. This episode is probably one of the best horror episodes to me, specifically with body horror. Like seriously, man, if this was a more detailed show, this show would be traumatizing. Episode 40, Spiral Beach. In a special cameo by Calamarimon from Frontiers, she read a bunch of Junji Ito manga and realized spirals were all the rage, and now everything is a spiral. Like I said, if you want Junji Ito with Digimon, this is an episode for you. Episode 8, Nightly Procession of Monsters. A Sister Ciel, aka one of those Digimon you turn safe search on, forces a bunch of Digimon to race all night, and if they are too slow, they will be absorbed by a metal Phantomon. This one's not really scary, it's more fun. It's an episode about the characters racing while trying to fight, you know, adds a lot of new dynamics to the typical Digimon encounter. Plus, it's just a fun time, you know? I like wacky races. You ever seen that show? Episode 12, Chain Letter. In a take on a well-known urban legend, a chain email is being sent all across the city of Townsville, and when people delete it, it creates a copy of a Weedmon, and since everyone deletes chain emails, they start growing and taking over the city fast. I think this is a good example of them straying more into the rumors and urban legends aspect of the show, and I think a Digimon that multiplies from deleting a mass chain email is a creative idea. Really makes you want to see how the characters will solve this one. Episode 46, The Queen's Banquet. In this episode, a reoccurring character and Hiro's friend Kotaro develops an irrational fear of water, not just swimming, but he can't even stand being near it or drinking it. Turns out this is because of a Leomon who's dehydrating him to prepare him so she can eat him. This episode is a good example of psychological horror, I think, since the horror comes from seeing Kotaro just deteriorate and get worse and worse as he keeps getting more and more dehydrated. Episode 10, Game of Death. In a new fighting game, people start disappearing after being beaten by an unknown female character, including Kotaro. Dude just can't catch a break. This is due to a Kenkakumon and Ginkakumon who are trapping people in a gourd to turn them into sake. Okay. I just like this episode because it's about fighting games, and I love those. That's pretty much it. That's the only reason I like it. Episode 42, Human Hunter. The gang investigate a bunch of Oboromon who are mistaken as Oni and are going around kidnapping humans as a game where the winner will become their leader. I like this one because it felt like there were actual stakes, with Hiro being one of the people that was kidnapped and the group constantly getting beat by the Oboromon. It's one of those stories where the main characters are just continually on the back foot and seem to have no way to win. But then, oh yeah, they just use the dark form to get them out of a bad situation because unfortunately Deus Ex Machinas are still a thing in writing. Everything before that, though, I still think is pretty good. Episode 20, Prison of Fire. Hiro and Gammamon have to fight off a Dark Lizardmon and a Saberdramon. They're looking for some plot that delivers packages to Hiro sometimes. This one's just good in general, I think. It's not scary, it's not funny, but I think it has some great character moments. Like Hiro and Gammamon having to fight the Digimon themselves with Senpai and Influencer are out of commission. And I'm not going to say why, but the reason Dark Lizardmon and Saberdramon are doing this is actually really sad and kind of fucked up, and it's probably one of the best backstories for any characters in this show, if I'm being honest. Episode 32, Who Are You? A Betsumon has shown up and stolen Gammamon's identity, and he needs to stop him because more Betsumon are showing up and taking over the student dorm, I guess. This is probably the funniest episode. I mean, just look at the Betsumon disguise. It's so funny that this is what we see, but to the other characters, they're like, what are you talking about? That's clearly that person. But at the same time, it's still ripping on classic horror stories, more akin to old alien films like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And finally, episode 45, Ghost Newspaper. An email news article starts being sent out and seems to predict the future as everything it writes seems to come true, especially the bad stuff, and especially to people who criticize the paper. And when a member of a popular idol group is in danger, the group have to stop the culprit, who is a Publimon. I just like this one. I thought it was entertaining and creative. I don't need some complicated reason for all of them, I like the fighting game one. So yeah, that's just a taste of some of the creative and interesting concepts the show comes up with having this, new horror angle they're going at with Digimon. And if you ask me, in my opinion, this show should have been an anthology series. Like, forget the dad, forget the Ghost Gammamon, all the lore background of the Digimon or whatever. If it was just a bunch of ghost stories that the characters encountered, I think it would be one of the best seasons of Digimon. Unfortunately, it's not just the story that brings the show down for me. It's a lot of things about the show itself. Like, in my opinion, the show doesn't look very good. When I first saw the images of the series and I heard it was about ghosts, I legit thought it was another Yokai Watch series. Not just because Hero doesn't have the goggles, which is blasphemous, but because the designs don't look unique to me in general. Hero looks like the default version of a character before you start customizing them. Really looks more like a background character. Kyoshiro looks the most interesting, but not by much if it weren't for his white hair. And I think it's mainly because of the school uniforms too. I think I talked about this a little bit when I mentioned Try, but anime characters in school uniforms is the most generic design for obvious reasons. And one of the reasons I like the aesthetics of anime where the main characters are kids or even adults is that they can give them clothes and accessories to make them stand out. I think they took the route of simple, but it just looks too simple, you know? I don't remember these at all. Like, to me, the main characters of the show look like the one-off characters that would show up in one episode and then never again. Then there's the animation. Now look, Digimon historically has not been the hub for Sakuga, and every series has had its problems, so this is not exclusive to Ghost Game. But wow, I noticed stiff movements, cut frames, and so many moments where the characters were off-model more often in this show than I think in any other one. Like, you can probably find one or more of those things happening multiple times in a single episode. It really feels like they put most of their time and effort in the horror elements and some fights, and everything else animation-wise kind of took a back seat. It's not just their designs, I am not a fan of our main trio personality-wise either. They are very boring to me. Hero's got nothing going on. I guess he's got themes and junk based on family, with his missing father and Gamemon referring to him as his brother. He's pretty standard as far as main characters go. He's always willing to help, so he's a pushover, I guess, or fucking cuck, whatever you want to call it. I do like that he does try to understand why a Digimon is doing something. He doesn't just assume they are evil and just try to beat them up. And most of the time they aren't, it's just a misunderstanding, so he's right. But besides that, he left no impression on me. If he wasn't the main character of this show, I wouldn't remember him. Gamemon is kind of annoying. His whole thing is that he acts like a little kid, usually not understanding common sense or typical human behaviors. He doesn't grate on you or anything, but you know, sometimes he'll just go on a thing or yell about something and you're just like, man, would you shut the fuck up? Ruli is fine. She's kind of just the girl a lot of the time. She is the one who usually finds the rumors and legends the gang investigate due to her social media presence, but beyond her personal fascination with the supernatural, I don't really have much to say about her. I mean, I like her, I don't dislike her, but in terms of a character, there isn't much explored with her. The only thing is she is apparently so good at everything that she is constantly bored because she's not challenged enough. Wow, how relatable to the kids watching. And Goromon is probably my favorite character. He's by default the most knowledgeable of the digital world and Digimon, usually telling the group about a Digimon's deal and their powers. And honestly, he's just kind of a chill dude who only wants to stay with Ruli. I like him, and I like that they hint that he's been through a lot of shit in the digital world and beyond, but don't go too much into it. Or maybe they did. Again, I don't remember a lot about the actual plot of this show. Kyoshiro at first was the most interesting character to me, with him being a scaredy cat of the group, you know, the Shaggy, if you will. So very often he's reluctant to investigating whatever rumor or legend is going around. But then you realize, oh, he does this for 60 more episodes, and then it starts to become annoying and very repetitive. He does weirdly have the most backstory given about him, at least with one-off lines, with him being a super genius who attended school abroad but moved back to Japan because he loves anime and otaku culture. That's pretty fun. Then there's every Digimon shipper slash hentai artist wet dream, Jellymon. She's a very mischievous and fun-loving Digimon, usually teasing Kyoshiro about how he's a scaredy cat and a nerd. But she does all this because she's in love with him, very tsundere of her. And no, that's not speculation or anything. The show very deliberately says that she wants to make digi-eggs with him, if you know what I mean. Sex. But yeah, none of these characters really left a big impression on me. In all honesty, I saw this series weeks ago before writing this, and when I had to, you know, start talking about the characters, I had to go back and rewatch some episodes and consult Wikipedias and stuff, because I forgot all about their personalities. None of them really go through any interesting arcs or character development, and if they do, they just reset the next episode. They're pretty much the same at the end of the show as they are at the start. Which is very disappointing, you know, considering this is Digimon, the show I personally like because of its characters and their arcs and their usually relatable problems amongst all, you know, the crazy digital monster bullshit going on. I think they really dropped the ball on this one. Honestly, I'd say in terms of all the Digimon shows, this is probably the weakest main cast out of all of them. It's definitely the weakest group. I may not like the characters from Frontier or Data Squad, but at least they had some development and the show gave reasons for why they act the way they do. These three can be interchanged for any other character, and I honestly wouldn't notice unless you told me. It's interesting because I think this is the first Digimon show where I was less watching to see what the characters were going to do and what they were going to find themselves into, and more interested in just what the story of the week was for whatever Digimon they were going to encounter. And yeah, even after talking about it, I'd still say I'm pretty conflicted about this show. It's not bad, but I wouldn't call it good either, you know, but I also don't want to just say it's mid, you know, because it's not. It belongs on one side of the spectrum, but I really think it depends on how you view it. I think if you're going into the show as a big Digimon head, or you like serialized storytelling, you know, twists and turns and world building, yeah, you're probably not gonna like this. But if you want a fun anthology series that takes classic and new Digimon and puts a horror spin on it with very creative methods, then you'll probably keep coming back just to see what they do next, like I did. Like, if someday I did rewatch this show, I wouldn't watch it from beginning to end in its entirety. I would just skim through, you know, the episodes that I remember and maybe go through like an episode list and just watch the ones that I think sounded cool. And for that reason, I think I can say that this is definitely one of the Digimon series of all time. What do you think of Digimon Ghost Game though? Was it one of the best Digimon series ever, or are you just waiting for the remake of Digimon Tamers? Let me know in the comments and leave a like or dislike at your discretion based on how you feel about my opinion. And remember, Yokai Watch is genuinely a good series. I know I'm joking, I know I have the picture up and whatever, you know, I'm just trying to piss off the Digimon fans saying, oh, it's like Yokai Watch. But seriously, it's a pretty good game series, and the anime's not bad either. Seriously, check it out. It's fun.